Hey, welcome back guys. Nick here in Division Prototypes. I sat down next to this front fender for the Cadillac just to show you guys how long this thing is. It's huge, like it goes on forever. It's almost 6 feet long. The thing is, it's laser beam straight. There's no ripples, no waves. It's beautiful, except for a few rust areas. These front fenders had little spears going down on each side of the hood that we're going to be deleting. So there's some trim holes we need to fill, and that's really where the rust started. So we have an area up here. I'll show you in a second. On the passenger side, we have an area through here, and on the driver's side, that bottom heel area is rusted away. So these are so large, I'm going to take and break this down into 3 episodes. First, we'll tackle the top. Nice and easy, take care of that. For the second episode, we'll tackle the front passenger fender, repair this area. And then for the third episode, we'll go and tackle that bottom corner there, the heel, and look at the structure, make sure the structure is good, the part that holds the fender to the car, and then recreate the skin. I haven't opened that up yet. I see a lot of Bondo there, so I'm guessing the whole bottom end has to go. You're probably watching this video because, well, whether you have a Ford, Chevy, Dodge, doesn't matter. You've got a problem with your fender and you need some help in approaching the rust repair. They have their little weaknesses where the structure and the skin have an area where garbage gets in. And usually that's what causes the area to rot out. That's really why I decided to make this video for you guys, just to help you out in terms of tackling something like this. As long as you have a fender, we'll give you a step-by-step process as to how you approach the rust repair for your fender. Because when you look at it, you probably wonder to yourself, where do I start? How do I start approaching this? So we're gonna start up here and open this up. We have some pretty significant bubbling caused by these trim holes that were created to hold the trim down. And what I'm gonna use is a stripping disc. You see it's kind of like a hard plastic type of texture. It gets the job done without removing any metal, and that's key. If you took a stone disc to this, you'd be chopping away metal and it'd just turn into a disaster. All we want to see is how bad the rust is and how far it extends into the fender. If it's significant enough, we would have had to create a fresh new piece. But just telling from looking from the inside, this isn't too bad. And all we do is take and strip away that, take away any rust that's underneath the paint, and then take and fill up these holes. We'll create little patches because they're too big to fill with just weld. That's just not the way you do it. So we'll create little patches, weld them in, smooth it all out, and it won't even look like we had anything there. You see that? The light beige color? That's Bondo, body filler. And what probably happened, you saw some in here too. What probably happened was there was a little bit of rust going on. You skim coated over the top of that rust, and then the water got in from the underside, under the Bondo, under the filler, and kind of blistered it up. So it's really not that bad. It looked worse than it was, but we're gonna have to take it and get rid of all that filler and make sure we have a nice clean surface to work to, weld these up and smooth it out to the point that we only have metal, no Bondo. I can see you laughing at me. Ridiculous. I never anticipated this much Bondo. Well, actually I did. I felt underneath and I felt a couple creases and I figured there was something hiding underneath this when I said it was laser beam straight. That's one piece of advice you should put in your top pocket next time you go buy a project car. If the car looks laser beam straight and they say there's no filler and the car is 50, 60 years old, you have to expect something because, well, this looked great, right? Until we took a grinder to it. And I understand you can't take a grinder to somebody's car and open things up, but until you open this up, you can't tell what's underneath. The magnet trick doesn't work because the magnet will still stick through that 1/4 inch of Bondo. Anyway, we have a whole series of little dents and dings, a big crease right there. This was about 5/16 thick. The rest of it had about a 3/16 skim coat of Bondo over the whole length. And I just kept grinding back until, well, I reached the end because I was hoping that would reach a point where there'd be no filler and we'd be back to original factory finish. But they had to cover up these dents and dings in the fender. And that was a quick way of doing it. They had the fenders off the car because there were other repairs done. They could have taken and bumped these little things out, smoothed them out, which is what we're going to do, but not today because that's not the agenda. I figured we'd fill 4 holes for you guys and be finished for this episode, but well, we got into a little bit more. We'll plenish this out, smooth it out, coat a high build, and then call it done. Now let's fill these 4 holes before we run out of film. For these holes, we have to make sure that they're perfectly clean. We're going to take and grind this back a little bit, get rid of any rust, any contamination, take and clean out the inside of the hole, and then we're going to create some blanks that fit these holes as precisely as we can. And then we're going to take TIG and just weld them in nice and smooth. Now, if you have a MIG, not a problem. It's a small area. You know, most guys in their garage have a MIG. Don't worry about it. Just control the heat. Don't put too much heat into the panel and you'll be fine. So basically going to reach in from behind, trace a circle, like so, and take and trim that out. You can spend an hour filling that with weld, and it's not the way you want to do that. You want to replace it with material that's comparable to the Fender. Okay, there we go. So that kind of fits in there. Not quite. Take off a little bit more. Boom. All right. Now don't lose the pieces that you're making because you'll have to make another one. Boy, it's all the dust. You know, I just can't stand grinding out Bondo dust. Typically, we'll send this out to our media blaster and he'll take care of it himself. But I just want to illustrate a point that if somebody tells you there's no filler in a job or in a project, always be mindful that there might be. If you can reach in from behind the panel to feel this area here, reach up inside the wheel well and feel. If there are any creases or whatever, then you might catch something that you don't see from the outside. So I'm going to make up a bunch of these. We'll have to do this for the other fender as well, but for today, we'll just do one. Almost there. You want to make sure it sits in the hole flush, just like that. Now I'll show you a really neat way of actually holding these pieces in so you can tack them. Because you can't really get a clamp in from behind to hold the pieces of metal. So we've got our 4 little plugs to weld into there. As I cut them, they got a little bit of a curvature to them. So what you want to do is flatten them out. Yeah, I know this is a little bit primitive. And now we're going to prepare the holes, clean them up. So what I'm using is a hole saw, a step bit, sorry, not a hole saw, but a step bit. And just cleaning out the inside of the hole. Any paint, any whatever, just basically clean it up. You can use a file, go in there with a file, clean it up. I didn't take any material out really, I just cleaned off any dirt that was in there. So now we can get these little plugs in and start tacking them in place. Before I turn the machine on, I'm going to say that you can use some masking tape. It'll give you a helping hand in holding this piece in place. It'll burn away a little bit, but you can flush it up, level it out, and we can just tack the edge. Then we can take and plenish that out and fit it to the hole. And that little tack or 2 tacks will hold the piece for us in place. But it's a quick and dirty little method of holding your piece in place. So let's get the TIG out and weld that up. It's the masking tape burning off from behind, but it doesn't matter anymore because we have our piece tacked in place. One hole done. 3 more to go. I think grind that smooth and call it a day. With old parts like this, you have to always make sure your material is clean because the contamination will affect your welds. I've started grinding this top of the weld off just a little bit. I didn't want to keep going down until I met the plug. I want to bring the plug up until we have a nice level surface, because I think second hole from the front, it moved down a little bit on me. So we'll get that moved up and then finish grinding it. It's coming in good. Just got to get this one up. That's it. Okay guys, well, 4 trim holes filled, all cleaned up, and basically that's how you fill a large hole. Just cut out a plug, weld it in, and smooth it out. We have a crease right here. We have to take and work that out, as well as those couple of dings there, but that's gonna be for another day. Thanks very much for watching. Next time we're gonna tackle the passenger side fender, and I'll have the fender prepared for that one.